What's up, guys? Welcome to Fold Out Fellowship, a podcast geared for high school and college students. This is where we're going to have great conversations about faithful living in today's world. We just hope that you sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of Fold Out Fellowship.
Welcome to this week's episode of Fold Out Fellowship. My name is Ashton, and I'm joined by two really awesome individuals today. Two great friends of mine. We have Amy Delgado.
Hello.
And then we've got Kelsi McCormack. Is it McCormack?
It's technically McCormack is the spelling.
Is that how you say it?
People say it. I say Kelsi McCormack.
Kelsi McCormack, everybody. Yep.
Someone else good.
So anyways, today I gathered us all here today to talk about this thing called mission trips. With summer coming up and me being in youth ministry, mission trips are a pretty big deal at church. And there's a few things that I think go into deciding whether they want to go on a mission trip or not. Am I spiritually mature enough to go on a mission trip or not? Is the relationships I'm going to make there, are those going to be worth my time to go? Should I do that instead of summer camp? But I also have summer camp going on, so should I go? So there's a lot of questions and concerns I think a lot of listeners that we have go through when deciding if mission trips are worth it. Anyways, I brought y'all's wisdom along just to talk through that.
What you pay for it.
Right.
We're wise. Oh, way to go, Kelsi.
Yeah, look, good for y'all. Yeah. But I wanted to ask y'all, gonna go through for the listeners, what's y'all's experience on mission trips? Have y'all been on one or two before? What's that looking like?
Shockingly, I've been on one or two.
What?
Actually, more than that.
Is that? Oh, what's your job title? That's probably
as
good.
the Global Outreach Director.
Oh,
it's shocking, I know.
Wow. Okay.
But, yes, I have. I went on a mission trip. The first one I went on actually was in sixth grade. Was with MDPC as a sixth grade mission trip to Galveston. And then I went on one in college, and I went as a volunteer on a number of youth MDPC mission trips. And then, obviously, in my role, I get the privilege to go lead teams on a number of international trips to visit our partners around the world.
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Heck yeah. And Amy, what about you? You have a little bit of experience on a mission trip or two?
Just a little bit. I actually did not do mission trips as a youth, and I wish that I had, because I think it really builds. I've watched my kids now come through this church and do that, and it is. I think it's transformational and just their own self-awareness and of where they fit into the kingdom, and just to get to know Jesus better. But yeah, as working in the outreach department, that's what we do, and we get the privilege to get to go and do this kind of thing, And not only do we get to go because it feeds you when you're out there, because you get to see Jesus. I mean, can you think of any better way? You got to get out of your context, just because we got so much white noise going on in our lives, I think.
Yeah.
That if you take yourself out of your daily context and go do stuff like that, you can really see Jesus in such a different way. So it's been so good for my own faith journey. But it's really fun for us to take other people and watch them have that. When something good happens to you, you get just as much pleasure watching it be revealed to someone else.
Right.
I think that's one of the best gifts that we get now to go out and do this.
Yeah.
So
I always think it's cool. I mean, now with my job title at MDPC, getting to bring some youth on trips, every summer. Last summer was my first time going on mission trips. I didn't grow up going. I was always a homebody. Was the kid that would rather stay in my little comfort bubble and do practice 3 times a day of football for summer league, which it's do you really need to practice that much?
It's hot.
But, and so, I don't think growing up at the church I grew up at, there wasn't a lot of global outreach or local outreach. There wasn't a lot of mission trips. So last summer, kind of going off of what you two were both talking about, the opportunity just to see kids go out of their comfort zone and relate to the people that Jesus is already working in there, and kind of just getting to be a witness to what God's doing outside of our little bubble of Houston, or our little bubble of, where we're at, it was really cool to see it. And like Amy said, it is very transformational. I've heard so many testimonies from kids just, realizing that, wow, my heart, my eyes were open to what God's doing. Like, it's way bigger than my little safe space. And so, it obviously gets me excited because mission trips are something I love. They grow on me so fast, and so it's so fun. But I do know that there's reserves or reservations before going on a mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of little fine tuning or nitpicking that I think people that are asked to go or have the opportunity to go through beforehand.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think going on something like this, though, is such a great equalizer. Because I'm thinking, if I'm middle school or high school, I'm thinking like, oh, these people aren't necessarily in my friend group, or maybe I'm outside of their friend group. When you leave your context, you're all starting on the same page, right? So I think what we see over, and I can think of an example where this isn't true. People come back totally bonded because you've been through something together.
Yeah.
And it changes the shape of your heart in a way that it won't go back the way it was before, like in the very best way, though, right? And so I think, I know I come back totally bonded to the people that go on each trip. And so it's fun, in anticipation of these trips, we look at the list of who's signed up and who gets to go or whatever. And you just like, we're going to be so close when we get back because you'll have been through something together.
Yeah.
And so much of it is not about, I don't know if you're heading this direction, but I'm going to go there anyway. But
go ahead.
So many times we go to these places and yes, we're serving. We're putting on a roof or we're doing, serving in some way that they do need that help. A lot of them do. We have some partners, though, that, if I'm honest, it's easier if we don't come, right? You're going to drill a water well or something like that. They can punch that well in about a day, and it takes us a week because they got to teach a bunch of gringos how to drill a well, right?
Right,
I mean, come on.
right.
They did not bring me here for my drilling expertise, right? Or my painting. Lord, I mean, gosh, how many bad walls have I painted? But it's an opportunity to serve, and the truth is that the people who really ultimately get served are the people who go on the trip. Yeah, you're going to serve your partner, and they're grateful for the relationship, and that is a super big blessing. But the truth is that a lot of the reason why we go on a lot of these is for people to see what's going on around the world or around our city or around the state or whatever. Get outside your bubble, see how other people live, what's really going on in the larger kingdom outside of your bubble. Break your heart for that. But it's really for you, for transformation for you. It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to go in it with an open heart and allow that transformation to happen. Because, sometimes it's actually, in a way, having some of that trepidation or maybe that nervousness going into it can actually help you just if you go into it with a spirit of humility and just be expectant that God is going to not only work through you, but he's going to work in you. Every single trip that I go on, I feel like I get a more clear picture of God and his heart for his people and his creation. And it changes you, like you said.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll say, like, when I think about my kids, for example, I'm just going to use this example, like on San Antonio when they went. They had a great time. They loved their group. They, and it was fun. They never put a roof on, so they felt like they came back like with some knowledge. Even they blessed this lady, but they also kind of learned some stuff. The thing that, especially one of my daughters, really talked about was they fell in love with the lady there in the house. It was the relationship with the woman that they were serving. It wasn't just the hammer and the nail part of it. I mean, that was a means to an end. But the truth is, it was about the relationship. They still talk about this lady, so it's just so good.
Yeah. And it just opens your eyes that God is big enough to work in people that you don't know. Or, I mean, it's just, he's at work at all times, like way bigger than just where your church is currently. And I kind of wish I could communicate that to every one of our students. Like, you just mentioned, Kelsi, earlier that, you have to approach it with a sense of humility. And I think it's hard sometimes for our kids to do that, because they are asking the question when they're signing up, oh, is it going to be worth my time? Do I have enough of my friend group going to participate? Well, I'm not great at roofing, but are we doing like another activity that I'll be able to serve better at? Like all these things, they start going through this list in their head, and then it's like, well, I think it would just be a lot easier to just go to Galveston that weekend, or just to I'd rather just go on vacation, and it's like, not saying vacation's bad. Obviously we all need a vacation every once in a while, but I did feel way more full when we got back from these mission trips last summer. I think I got to do 3 last summer, and it was just, every one of them had their own little hint of God and how he was working a big plan, through all of it, whether it was middle schoolers, young high schoolers, or older high school and college students, and it wasn't just the really far mission partners. However, I loved Uganda, and we got family there now, and so you got the faraway mission trips, and if that's like up, I guess, your alley, then great, go. It's awesome. God's going to be at work there. And even the mission trips that were right down the road, right down I-10, also great mission trips, But yeah, I think a lot of our students or a lot of our listeners get caught up on that like checklist of like what's in it for me before going. And what would y'all have to say for them? For the ones like kind of going through that checklist, trying to justify going?
I don't know if it's a checklist thing, but I think so many people struggle to figure out like, where do I fit into this big world that we've got going on here? And I think when you go on these trips, you kind of start to go, oh, this is part of what I'm supposed to be doing. It gives you a different sense of space in the kingdom versus like, who am I? I'm from West Houston and I don't know what. You get out and you kind of go, oh no, I have purpose. God's going to use me for a purpose, and here we are today. Yeah. But as far as why to go, I think we've laid it out. It'll change you. It's so, you just, I can't think of a better way to get involved. We talk about coming to worship and how important that is, and it is, right? But you got to get filled up. But if you look at the Great Commission, the whole point is to go and make disciples.
Right.
Go. Go is the biggest part of that thing, and you can't sit at home and behind your video gaming console,
Right.
and be. I know you're connected on the internet. Right. There's like a virtual go, but it's not the same. It's not the same as getting out of your zone and going and seeing what God's doing and just being a part of that. And it's a really, I think, going on a mission trip. It just lays it out for you. You personally don't have to go and create your own mission, right? All these things are curated for you.
Yeah.
Just come on. You're going to go with people who love Jesus, and if they love Jesus, they should be nice to you.
Right.
So it should be a non-threatening, really fun kind of thing. And I do think it is a great equalizer again, because everybody's on an even playing field once you get on that van or whatever. To go out and serve.
And kind of like you said, just the perspective that it gives you to get outside of your comfort zone, get outside of your bubble, whether that's down the road in Houston in a different neighborhood or across the country or across the world, just getting outside of your bubble can just give you such a broader perspective. And the people that you go with, which we've talked about, just the relationships that's formed. And, there's each team and each group that we go on with a mission trip has its own kind of dynamics, but we come back and there's trips that we went on 5 years ago that we still have inside jokes with, and that we, it just, nothing bonds you to the other people that you're traveling with. And just those relationships are so special, and those memories are so special, just because what you've experienced together and how you saw God moving together. And there's just nothing like it. And especially when we go into different cultures and different contexts, kind of like I mentioned, I see more clearly who God is when I see him worshiped in different cultures and contexts. It may look very different than it does in the MDPC sanctuary, but it's beautiful. And I feel like we get a small taste of heaven when we get to experience some of those differences.
Yeah, totally.
That makes me reflect on not to only talk about global mission trips, but how impactful. So, me and Amy and a few others led a team to Uganda, Africa last summer, one of our church partners in the Wanda Children's Home. And I remember being at church on that Sunday, and they pulled me up in like the pulpit. And I'm like, I have no business being here in this pulpit. Like
we talked about outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Go on.
And they're like, all right, come on, you're gonna come preach. Whoa. And oh man, I mean, it makes me emotional because I remember being in that pulpit and just like there's people that walked there for miles to get to church that Sunday. You got our team, and you like think back to like the first day y'all all met at Mia's table to like have a lunch meeting, and how shy everybody was, or how hard it went. And you're like, oh man, I don't know if we're gonna be able to relate after a 24-hour plane ride. Like, but seeing like all of them just immersed like in the villagers and in the people that were attending that church, and then like us singing songs that we listened to here at MDPC, but it not being in our language, but we still knew the song. And I just start I'm just crying, but it's like happy tears, because I'm like, it's like I'm seeing a little taste of like the big picture of what it is, and it's like, whoo, like that's what God wants for us, and so that's why I always encourage students to just take a step and go. Like, it takes courage. Faith is active, and these mission trips are great launch pads for that. Yeah. To go. And I wish I would have knew that. I think my my problem in high school, college was I would justify not going on mission trips. I think I had a problem with thinking, oh, well, then I'll look negative to go on a mission trip, and what if I never go back? Like, is that like I guess I felt like that would be rubbed off the wrong way. Interesting. I don't know. I think that was always my like reserve. Like, I don't want to go build a relationship with somebody, but what if I never see them again? And that's what I led Nadad in my crutch to like justify me not experiencing like a deeper faith, and going and serving. And it was thinking back now, it's like such a silly thing, One
of the things I'll add to is, a lot of our trips that we do, especially with the adults, just because that's what we get visibility to mostly, is a lot of the people, when we publish a trip, the same people sign up because they've experienced it, and they're like, I want more of that. Right. Yeah. And so we end up with these kind of like the usual suspects that come along with it. We love it. It's so great. But, or they come back and they always want to go on the one. And whenever you go see that partner, then they really want to go again because they build that relationship. But it doesn't have to be like that. Yeah. It can be just go and see. I mean, because again, the middle school mission trip, you're going to be in high school someday. You're not going to go on that anymore. So, right. But it's just to go and serve, because it's what, I think it's one of the ways that the church builds you up, but I think it's one of the ways that God builds you up. I mean, this is just one of the ways, but it is such a good one. You got to get out. You got to go. Yeah.
Well, and this may be more applicable to some of the trips that we do to visit our partners. So a lot of the trips that, international trips, we go to visit our partners that are serving, and even if we're only there for a week, our partners are there day in and day out. And to remember that we're not going over there as the savior, right? That they're the ones doing the work. They're the ones that have the relationship, and part of it too is to encourage them and to encourage the work that they're doing.
If you have like a long-lasting relationship and you go and you love it, you can find a way back, with today's world, we're so connected, like I still Facebook message all these, I mean, even the guys in Mexico that we met, on that little day trip, for Christmas. Yeah. I mean, I still play Wordle with those guys, it's like doing that or messaging, friends in Africa, it's like, you can stay in touch now. And so anyways, just going with a bigger intention in mind is cool.
Yeah. And God can use that experience to plant seeds of, there have been students who've gone on mission trips that feel God calling them to long-term missions or into ministry, or, that's, an extreme example, but even just, I think it's important to recognize too that we're called to be missionaries in our everyday life too. That it's not just going on a week-long mission trip and okay, I've checked that box, I'm done. Like, no, we're called to be missionaries in our home, in our school, in our neighborhood, wherever we are. And so it can help give you that perspective or that lens when you come home of where can I be serving even in my everyday life.
Right. These trips end up becoming part of your testimony. Oh, yeah. And even if you're not using it as testimony, like in your science class, right? You can tell stories. Yeah. And you just never know. Someone will come back 10 years later and go, I remember that story that you told me. And you're like, oh, I had no idea. Right. That's how God uses you when you come back.
Yeah. I was talking about testimonies the other day to some of our high school students. We started a testimony Sunday It's once a month where you just have the chance to give your testimony. But I remember I was, just telling them, like, guys, like your testimony doesn't have to be from zero to now, your whole novel, is played out.
Right.
Some people have, it's a great thing. You should know, like, what your life story has been. Yes. But also, like, we went to the Navajo reservation last summer, and when Pastor JR is the head pastor there, we had church one morning, and he would invite his congregation for testimonies, open mic. But I'm thinking, we're about to have 15-minute testimonies, 15 to 30 minutes, all that stuff. But their testimonies were just stories of where they see God working, where they see God moving, and like friends that they've just wanted to call out on being examples of who Christ was, and that's what I kind of encourage those guys to do. Is like, look, these mission trips are fantastic testimonies to go and to go and see. Go observe what God's doing. Let him use you a little bit, and then you come back, and then you get to tell those guys at your lunch table, or the ones in your small group, or the ones in your locker room, like what change you have witnessed, because that's the thing, is like we talk about witnessing winsomely at MDPC, and it's like you get this testimony and you come back, and then it's just it has filled you up to then pour out to all those around you, and just that gives you that fuel to do that.
Yeah.
With witnessing, I love, one of our friends shared us about sometimes witnessing can, I don't know, sometimes people get nervous about it, or they think, like I have to have this perfectly crafted script or something. And he explained it one time, how he was explaining it to his friend, of like, it's just like a witness on the stand. Like when you're a witness on the stand, you're not asked to know the answer to every question. You're not asked to have, some grand story. Like all you're doing is saying what you've seen and what you've heard. It's just your experience. That's all that you're called to do. And putting it in those terms just makes it like, I can do that. Mm-hmm. And on these trips, like you said, it gives you the opportunity that I love when we come back from our trips, because a lot of people know that we went on trips, or hey, you went to Egypt, tell me about it. What happened? And it's you just get opportunities time and time again to say, here's what God did through this trip, or here's what God's doing right now in wherever it is that you went. And so that's such a great opportunity, and something that often I tell our folks whenever we're traveling with, is that when you're coming back home on the plane ride, think about, people are going to ask you that question, and be prepared for that question when they ask you, how was your trip? So that it's not a missed opportunity, that you can share with them. Instead of just being like, it was great, share with them what God did through that trip, what he taught you.
Just one or two cool stories.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so good. I think too, when I think about these trips, as we were preparing for our last trip to Uganda, there were some nervous parents and all the things, which understandable.
I was nervous. Right. I mean, I can play it cool, but it's like, hey, this is far away. I ain't never been there before.
Like, are you really sure? But when I think about a lot of, I don't care what age you are, but especially our students, I'm like, with their parents, I said, this is something that will stay with them forever. Mm-hmm. You're run down to Cabo or whatever. That was a nice trip, but are you going to talk about that when you're 90?
Right.
Maybe not. Mm-hmm. But are you going to talk about the time you went to Uganda and you sat in a worship service and you played with these kids and you taught them how to play kickball, because Ashton taught them how to play kickball?
I did. I was coach. Coach Ashton.
They had no idea how to run bases, and Ashton's out there. It was great. You'll remember that forever. And it's because and the reason that is not just because of what was on the schedule, but it's because of what God did, and it somehow transformed you.
Yeah.
And that's what these trips do.
I think about every time mission trip planning comes up, it's like, or now that I'm coming in my second wave of planning all of them, making sure everything looks good, and like, all right, this is a good plan to hold on to loosely, because it'll change. But I think about all those like faces of the students that were our teams, whether it was the San Antonio High School leaders, or the Navajo Reservation team, or Uganda. And I think about all those kids, like we were saying earlier, like the team just got so close. But then when they came back, you could just see like them radiating with like, I can't believe I was scared to do what I just did. Like I can't believe I was like afraid and almost missed out on that opportunity I just did, all because of like a long plane ride, like, oh my gosh. And that was so cool to witness that. And we have a few students from, one of those trips that are interested in full-time ministry now because of just like the opportunity they had to see it in action. And yeah, it's like my big thing on this whole topic, it's like when kids are like, well, should I go on that mission trip? I don't know. And I'm like, why not? Why not go? By the time you're in college, you might have to pay for it yourself, so you might as well, if you're in high school, my goodness, go. If you're in middle school, go. And
especially being on the other side of that, you're like, why would you not go?
Yeah.
Like what? I get it. There's trepidation on this side, but just talk to anybody who's been.
Yeah.
And they're like, why would you not go?
Right.
What an awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
Not everybody, there's so many people who are outside the church or whatever. They don't get this opportunity to get to go, So, to your kids, come, bring friends. Like, this is an awesome opportunity.
Tell everybody about it because, God's moving right now. It's not don't plan on going on a mission trip 5 years later. I'm going to go, if I'm a senior in high school, I'm going to plan on going on a mission trip when I'm a senior in college. That's when I'll go. The time is now. We're not promised tomorrow, and that's the truth. If you feel, I always tell our kids this, when they feel led to a testimony, like, I don't know, I feel like I want to talk about my testimony, but I don't know, like I'm not a great public speaker. Why not? Why not do it? Uh-huh. You don't know who's in the room. On these trips, you don't know who you're going to cross that needs you, or that needs God through you. Like that's a huge thing. What are do y'all have any last minute encouragement for, cause we're in the heat of the season of kids like deciding to go, not just MDPC, we're fully booked, but I was gonna say, I don't I think there's a lot of mission trips available to, especially our students in Houston, or they have the choice to do it. What would be y'all's last minute encouragement to them if they're like on the fence of like, should I not? I don't know. It's kind of been on my heart, but maybe not. What would y'all say?
Go. Lean into it.
Yeah.
And, just like we said, the Great Commission, God calls us, Matthew 28:19, go and make disciples of all nations. We're all called. And to lean into it and to get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God will work.
Yeah, we're telling you what's there.
Yeah.
Get out of your own way.
Right. Get out of your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that. Get out of your own way. I think that's what I had to do. Like, just
Did you come up with a narrative?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Oh
It's
my
hard,
goodness.
it's long. I'm super busy.
Well,
Yeah.
you can come up with excuses for
all day long.
everything.
Yeah.
And or you can say, oh, it'll be easier at a different. No, it's never like the time is now. And
Right.
And the truth is, it's usually like a week or 10 days. I mean, we're not talking like
Yeah.
you're not studying abroad.
Right. Yeah. Right. You might like it enough to stay, but hey, and that's the best part, but oh my gosh. Yeah. Get out of your own way. I like that. It applies so much to like me. Cause when we were planning Uganda last year, I've never been out of the country. Much less the Bible Belt, for the most part, and I'm planning this trip and like all these logistics are going into play and like all these assets of people like I'm having to communicate to. And it's just like all these things the enemy likes to use to like, oh, well, that just seems like too much. Like you're not going to get the worth out of it that you're putting into it, and like that was like a lie. I was having a battle and I remember going to Amy plenty of times like, hey, like, this is a good trip, right? It's going to be good, right?
Like Ashton, get out.
Yeah, you're like, you're fine. Yeah, Ashton, figure it out. You're going to be fine. Yeah, and sure enough, I mean, it was a life-changing trip.
I look over and Ashton is like glowing. I'm like,
yeah.
Told you.
Yeah. Oh, man. And that's all it takes is just like, put those to the side. If it's on your heart and if it's in your opportunity to go, then do it. Like, the time is now, like Kelsi said, but, well, that's all I
say.
got.
Any of your listeners, even probably that have done this, send in your stories. I mean,
yes.
I'm telling you, you know what we're talking about. It'll change you in the very best way possible.
Yeah, all it takes is going. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode. I really loved it. It was a great conversation. And for all you guys listening, thank you all for tuning in. If you've made it to the around 35-minute mark, we appreciate you being here. But no, wherever you're listening, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, we appreciate y'all a ton. Like, follow, comment, share, retweet, whatever you can do. But all this stuff, yeah, all this stuff, just do it. But no, we appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next week on Fold Out Fellowship. Thank you guys. Talk to you later. Peace.